Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my wonderful guest, Donna Kendrick, who's going to be here today to share her story, is going to be joining us with her own podcast. I can't wait. It's still a little ways out. She's got a few things that she's got to get in order first, but she's going to be bringing us some wonderful wisdom on her Widow to Wisdom show. And it's going to be talking about financial security and how to secure yourself, in that transition. And her passion, which we're going to be learning more about today, is that transitioning from either being a widow or divorce or any form of change that you have in your life, and how you can actually, transition into a more equilibrium and not be stressed out. She is a financial expert and she really knows how to help people make the right choices. She's here to serve families and individuals who walk through their doors, who strive to be passionate, supportive, a lifeline for them whatever they're going through. And honesty and generosity is the direct fuel in her mission, and putting people first and prioritizing their relationships. That is a wonderful basis to have in any business, and especially when you're going to be ever talking about finances and the struggles that comes along with it. Stepton Financial is a financial service practice located in Wynwood, PA, serving clients in Bucks and Montgomery counties. Her husband passed away at the age of 42, and she decided to turn her career upside down and help others experiencing widowhood and life transitioning with taking control of their financial future. We have, as I said, a lot to talk about here, folks, and let's just dive right into it. Her beautiful show, as I said, Widow to Wisdom, is going to be coming out soon, where she's going to be really bringing people on that are going to share their stories, but their wisdom and how we can all navigate through this. And in these times, I know there's one hell of a lot of widows and widowers that have been left behind. And there's an awful lot of people that have even had divorce or just families split up or sickness. And it's a really stressful time dealing with that, but at the same time, now what you do about the finances and the security for the rest of the family, and it can be extremely daunting. So let us welcome our to-be new host, Donna. Welcome to the fold, my dear. It is an absolute delight to have you on board as a host coming up, but also as a guest today, sharing your story.
Sarah, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I'm kind of astounded and blushing, but thank you so much.
Own it, own it, own it. We own things here. And, this network is called Self-Discovery, because really, whatever situations we're put in life, we are going to go down a path of self-discovery, of finding our courage and our strength and our abilities. And crises can happen where it completely can freeze us in the moment, but then the necessities of life step in and you've got to step forward. And very often we're just feeling paralyzed because we just don't know, what do I do? Finances, maybe he took care of all the finances or she took care of all the bills, and it's like, how do I do this? And it can be an enormous burden on people's shoulders. But before we get to that, because that's become your passion, let's share your story. How old were you when you became a widow?
I was 40 years old. I always remember going into work being like, oh, everyone complains about turning 40. It is awesome. I have no problems. I feel the best I ever did. 2 weeks later, we lost my husband suddenly. And I remember going into work a week after that being like, 40 is a little sticky. I take it all back. Yeah. So I was 40 and my children, we had 3 children, were 12, 11, and 8 at the time.
Yeah, I lost my father when I was 11, so I really do feel for those children. And it's, suddenly dad's not there. And it's, mum's stressed. Mum's carrying all the burden. I'm a young age. How do I help mum? I have no idea. How do I deal with my own feelings? What am I meant to do? How am I meant to behave? And it really is a turmoil time of emotion, isn't it?
It is of everyone trying to protect one another
Mm,
and care for one another in a whole new role of life. And we learned quickly. We learned quickly to depend on one another and to depend on the community around us to really help me raise those kids and to bring them forward. Yeah, we were brand new to our community when my husband passed. I think we only lived here in Winmore, PA for about I think only about 2 months before he passed.
wow.
So it was a brand new school, it was a brand new community, and I am so thankful. It's another reason why I have my practice right here, is
Mm,
just to give back to all the peoples that showed up with meals and baked CD
mm, yeah,
and holiday gifts for the children. Yep.
yeah. Well, that's what community is meant to be about. We're meant to be there for each other. That's the way we were designed. We're meant to be that village, and that village is only as strong as we are there for each other. And so, whether you know somebody for a minute or whether they've been there lifelong, we need to step up and be supportive of one another. You never know when you're going to need the support. So, I'll catch the next one. No, it doesn't work like that, folks,
Yeah.
in whichever way, small or big, just do something. Um, you went back to work a week later?
I did. I did. So, and I sent the children back to school a week later. And we've talked about that many times. So, is that the best way or should it
Mm,
take that long? But I am one of those people that's dust it off, stand up, and let's get going. And because the children were so new to the school district, I thought it was just really important that they continue to try to enhance their friend network and actually keep their minds a little bit busy moving
right.
forward. I was blessed and lucky because at that time I worked in their school. So it's not like I was sending them off to school and I didn't have my eyeballs on them. It was a
Yeah.
great way to stay
Yeah.
very close to my children. They might not have loved it so much, but it was great for me to be able to see how they were, to talk to their teachers, and to know how they were
Well,
doing on a
yeah, I
daily
mean, what a
basis.
gift that is actually, because we know how kids can be bullies. And, I know when my dad passed, I was in boarding school. I was being bullied all the time. Your dad's
Mm.
not dead. You're just trying to get sympathy and all of that. And one
Oh,
day,
I'm sorry.
no, no, I mean, it's, long ago, but, the headmistress sent me out of morning prayers, and I heard voices behind the door, and apparently she laid into them. And after that, they kind of looked at me all sheepishly, and I never heard a word about my dad again.
Yeah.
But kids can be cruel, and the fact that were in the school, you could be there as that protector, and you've let all the teachers know they're going to have their antennas up. And I think,
Yeah.
whether you're working in the school or not, when you are sending your kids back, it is important that you go to the school, you address everybody, their teachers, their PE, their everything, and saying, we know kids can be bullies. This is the time to show kindness, and you can be the lead on it. And
Yeah.
just keep your eyes open. It's really important for those children, isn't it? They don't
It
need
is.
another trauma on top of everything.
No, not at all. And it is so impressive what the community has done to embrace the children that have lost parents. There's been many in our district, and sadly, since my husband had passed, and my children onboarded with a program called Safe Harbor locally through
Mm,
here. And that program actually really helped them. It's made specifically for children that have lost a parent or a caregiver, and the parents go to a separate room and they themselves learn about what the children are going through at this stage, what techniques we're launching for. Safe Harbor, after some collaboration, has now worked itself into the schools. So for
excellent.
some of the three local schools, they come in as a resource to help train the teachers, as well as to give a respite to the children who might not be able to attend the nightly. It's like
Mm.
one night every 2 weeks, but I'm so happy to hear that they fed into the school systems.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and again, especially after the year that we've had. Now, the death of your husband was very sudden. Like, it's, some people are, it's illness, it's coming, you've got time to prepare. But if it's very, very sudden, then it's like it really is somebody's whacked you along the side of the head. Are you feel comfortable enough to share how he passed?
Yeah, definitely. He took his own life.
Oh,
So yeah, it wasn't the best, but
no,
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 but
yeah, a whole gamut of other emotions go through that, doesn't it? Because it's always guilt. I could have seen it, I could have done something, but ultimately, this is choose positive living. He didn't choose that positive living. So whatever was going on in his life, he couldn't deal with. And we can be there for as much as we like for people, but if it's their journey, that's their journey, however painful it is.
No, understood, understood. And he did. He battled depression for many years, and it was kept quiet. It would have affected his employment. That's a whole nother podcast, but he
Mm-hmm.
didn't get the effective treatment that he needed. But I will say that at the time we lost him, he was on an upswing. He was doing very well. So that would be the surprising part, that it
Mm.
wasn't when we were low 3 years
Right.
before. It was when he was actually doing well, like at the football game that day. And when I actually found him, we were getting ready to go for a date night with his childhood friends.
Mm.
So that was the surprising part. But
Mm.
it was also a part that actually he left in a really good upswing with
Mm.
happy memories with the kids, with holding the flag at the football game that morning. So,
Right.
yep,
Yeah, and again, we don't know, what comes across someone's mind. I mean, there's um, suicide to actually go through with that. It has to be an act of desperation, of the, you cannot see the next moment. You're only in this moment, and this is all you can see and feel. And it's a question if there's somebody there to pull you back from the brink, or this is it. This was your sole contract to come here, and but it's always the people that are left behind. And you discovered him.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Double whammy, double whammy. um but I mean, talk about the person left behind. When my dad died, I went to my mom and I said, God took the one that was the weakest and left the one that was the strongest. And that was true, because obviously you're the strength to carry everything on, but that doesn't mean that you can't have your weak moments, and weak moments must be had, mustn't they? You
Agreed.
can't be the constant worrier, because that is just going to break your shoulders. You yourself have got to say, I'm having those moments. I need help. I need hug. I'm feeling at the end of my tether. And that it's okay to say it, isn't it?
No, definitely, definitely. And that is part of, again, why I say this community has been so fantastic. Because, sure, brush myself off, get back to work doesn't mean it's all good.
Right.
And it was the moms in the district that would sit
Yeah.
down next to you when you didn't know anyone on the bleachers and be like, hey, how you doing? Looks like
Hmm.
it's been a little bumpy. What's
Hmm.
going on? Or inviting you out to be part
Yeah.
of the community.
Yeah.
That's where you take on the resources. And when you shared earlier, community, that's what it's meant for. It sure is. I was blessed and lucky that I actually moved into a community where my sister has been a resident for 14 years before my husband passed. So we had actually traveled abroad, traveled all over the world with his employment. This was my first time back stateside at that point in 5 years straight. So for me to be in a community that held my sister too, right, for that giant
Yes.
hug, so lucky, so blessed. And I
Yeah.
think he knew that too when he left, that
Hmm.
we were in a safe spot.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, kind of him and the universe were putting you in the right place, because it was clearly inevitable, but
yeah,
at least setting you up for that foundation to know that you could get through it because you're in the right place to do so.
definitely, definitely. Yep. So that was the blessing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
What advice would you give to people, when they know somebody that's lost someone? And most people don't approach people or don't step up because they have no idea what to say or how to behave, and everybody's different and how their reaction is going to be. But what would you say to those people, about the fear of what to say, or the fear of saying something wrong and being offensive, or just not knowing?
Mhm. And again, I would think because of the way I lost my husband, and I'm a certified grief recovery counselor, and
Mhm.
all of these things, I should have all the right words. Oh,
Yeah.
but I don't, right?
No.
Like I'm afraid I'm going to hug them and start crying. It's
Yes.
just who I am, as we can see. Um,
You're
but
from the heart, my darling. That's why you're here.
for everyone listening, I have waterproof mascara. It's not running down my face. I'm okay. I put the glasses on to hide it all. We're fine. Um, but so a lot of it is to not be afraid to walk up to them and spread support. A lot of it is not asking, what do you need?
Right.
Because they're not going to tell you that. We
No.
want to be empowered. We want to look like we have control of this,
Yeah.
even on our darkest, saddest days. So sometimes it's doing that special thing. Here in the States, most of us have big yards, right? So it's actually hiring a company to go and mow their lawn. And
Mm.
they might not ever know who
Yeah.
hired the company,
Yeah.
right? That's something important. Or they come home from a football game and you've raked all their leaves.
Mm.
Just do something extra. Don't ask, even though you think you're being polite. The answer most likely is going to be no, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
think outside the box and work around the
Yeah.
system. The other thing I always recommend too is there's such support so quickly after someone passes, and it is a swirling time. You're
Yeah.
dealing with finances, you're dealing with family, you're dealing with children, you're dealing with emotions, you're dealing with yourself having the loss. It's months later that really the support needs to come in,
Yes.
when all of that activity dies
Yeah.
down, when all of the family has gone and you're left kind of with the what's next. We call it
Mm.
immediate, transitional, and long-term goals.
Yeah.
As we're getting out of those immediate ones and those transitional, if you are someone in the support or someone in the back end, that's when you come in.
Yeah.
Hey, I know it's been a while.
Hmm.
How about we go to dinner?
Yeah.
How about, yeah, or I've put this basket together. I think it'll really help you through spring. Just leave it there.
Yeah.
So,
Let's. I'm taking the kids for a play date.
oh,
You know.
oh,
A
I
bunch
used
of
to
girls.
love that.
Right. Exactly.
Someone take all three.
Yeah. Or but we're taking the kids for a play date, or the husbands are, and us women are going off to the spa. you
Yeah,
know.
it's
Pamper
awesome.
day, because the last thing you think about when you're suddenly the breadwinner and you're dealing with everything, the last thing you think about is spending money on something as frivolous as a spa day or a
Yes.
massage, right? Which is one of the things that you really do need. It's physically exceptionally good for you, emotionally good for you, and you need that kind of time out to do something like that. But this is certainly not on the budget. So
No.
having somebody step up and say, look, the kids are taken care of, you're coming to a spa day with me.
That's amazing. That would have been
Yes.
really nice. And I will say too, we did the meal train in our neighborhood, meaning that everyone signs up online, and then you put a cooler outside of your house, and at four
Mm.
o'clock, dinner arrives. I highly encourage putting a bottle of wine out there.
Yes.
Just
Yes. Yeah.
anytime I've set up a meal train to pay it forward in years after, it's like I ask the person, like, is would they like a bottle of wine, or
Mhm.
what is their drink of choice if they do, or if not, what is their creature comfort? Is it
Yes.
chocolate? Is it cheesecake?
Yes.
What is it?
Yes.
And find out that little
Yeah.
thing. So nice, so
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the meal is wonderful. Good. I don't have to cook a meal, but ooh, the goodies suddenly pick you right up. Isn't one glass of wine when the kids have gone to bed? Yummy, or cheesecake or chocolate, yes. And suddenly you can kind of, you're lifted up and taken out of the responsible mode. Because one of the things when you become a widow or widower, or even a divorcee, somebody who's just suddenly had a complete split, um, it is, the finances immediately come up, right? How
It's
are we
true.
going to survive? And I know that it's a very valid question. And, some people, when they say that, and people, oh, but you've lost your spouse, that shouldn't be on your mind. But well, how do I pay the mortgage or the rent and the food on the table and
Yeah,
this and that?
it has to be.
It has to be on your mind. And it can be really crippling for people if the spouse has been the breadwinner and
Sure.
you've relied on that income, which I know wasn't your case, but you deal with a lot of people like that. And it is, it can be, for some people, they've never balanced a checkbook, not that we do that anymore, but you know what I mean? Never registered the actual overdraft that they're using with their debit. But it is something that really does need to be addressed. So kind of the work that you're doing now is, helping people stabilize, that let's get the finances in order so you can feel secure to actually be able to go through the emotions that you need to go through in healing. But that financial security, or just that whole, I'm there for you, I'm
Yeah.
there for you, let's just look at how we can put things together, is essential, isn't it?
Yeah, and actually the timing of it is too, right?
Mm.
There's many things that if we move into my position as a financial professional too, many things that I can take care of, that I can
Hmm.
just take off of their plate, filling
Right.
out redundant forms,
Yeah.
making some calls. And there's some things that the widow or widower has to do themselves
Yeah.
because it's private information,
Yeah.
but it's knowing quickly what can be taken off because you can so quickly feel busy to
Mm.
distract yourself from the grief
Right.
by handling those things. And sometimes it's just so nice to have somebody help you organize the information, take the next steps, because everyone, like we just shared, is offering to help,
Yeah.
right? Like aunts, uncles, cousins,
Mm.
brother-in-laws. Brother-in-laws, for some reason, seem to be the biggest helpers after a loss. not always the best advice, right? But it
Right.
gives
Yes.
you some privacy too, of that you do have the control and that it is your private information, and there's
Yeah.
someone there alongside of you helping. That doesn't have to be the brother-in-law,
Right.
but that's a lot too. It's just noticing what you have to do immediately and what can wait a little while. We always have what we call the checklist, like what do you have to do in the first 4 weeks? What do you do in the next three? So that you can feel like you checked it off, you're getting accomplished, but
Mm,
it doesn't have to be overwhelming. Some
yeah.
things can wait, some things can't because we
Right.
have mortgages, things like that.
Right. Right. And, you know, I'm referring back to my dad because obviously, he's the person that passed. But I remember my mum getting a bill 2 weeks after he died for apparently a whole load of suits that he had bought, conveniently 3 days after he had died.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Oh,
So,
wow.
that is something to be wary of. Suddenly, out of the woodwork, somebody, oh, your husband owes me this and owes me that, and they kind of, trick things. And it's like, no, it's don't just kind of immediately just pay things off. Question,
Yeah,
because
be
unfortunately
aware.
there are sharks out there, and they have no heart, and they will take advantage. And if you are like, I don't know what this is about, this is where you turn to people like yourself and go, I is this true or not? And because they don't know the first thing about finding out, if this
Yeah.
is a real thing or not.
100%. And in my relationship, my late husband's name was Greg. With Greg and I have a degree. I understand the finances. So I
Yes.
took care of all of that. But months after he passed, I actually thought, what if it would have been me? What if
Yes.
I was the one who would have passed? He would have been lost.
Yeah.
He didn't have passwords to get onto the online
Mm,
accounts. He didn't know where the retirement savings was, right? He doesn't know how all the kids' 529s for college were being funded or how they were working together. So that was a huge learning curve for me to add value to my clients too,
yeah.
is while the couples are together, while they're alive, while they're raising their family, make sure that there's transparency,
Yeah.
right? Make sure that we understand where all of everything is. And even if you don't want to, right? As
Mm,
long as there was a
yeah.
knowing of, okay, well, all right, my financial advisor has it. So I can turn to that person. Even that was really integral. And I remember doing a speaking tour where I actually carried a bag of keys with me. And those keys were the keys that came from my husband's office after he passed. And I didn't know where any of them belonged.
Mm,
And I always say that too about the finances. Like, I might have taken care of the finances and I knew where everything was. I have no clue where these keys go to. And that's that learning curve. Share the information, write it down,
mm,
um, put a personal document locator, and step by step tell people where everything is. Try to make it as easy for those who are surviving you to move forward. And by the way, some of those keys were just hysterical. The little keychains they were on. I'm like, oh my god, he got this when he was in fifth grade. Like,
well, and he was just carrying the keys around. Just did they open anything?
we found some were to bike locks. We did
Right.
find some that were to safe deposit box, which we didn't know, right? So
Right.
some of those, a lot of them were work keys. So I was like, hey, I don't need them, give them
Mm,
back. And then for some reason, we moved a lot because we worked. It was almost like a military life.
mm.
He didn't like to give the keys back when we moved. He was just lazy. He just hardworking guy. But I think once we moved out of the apartment, he was like, all right, we're good.
But there's another word you hit on there: passwords.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that is, please write down your password, um, and put it somewhere safe, but make sure that somebody can get it
yeah.
afterwards, because suddenly you can't get into their Gmail account, or you can't get into their bank online, you can't get into that. And it's like, I mean, I know there's somebody out there apparently who's a billionaire in bitcoins, but because he doesn't have his password, he hasn't got any access to them.
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
Wow.
What about it? There's a lesson for you. But
Yeah,
passwords, it's and we're always changing them too. So
sure.
because suddenly whatever you're using rejects your old password, and now you've got to change it. So always update your password on your information, and put it somewhere where your partner can get it.
Yeah.
If that comes to it, because you're stuck. You're completely stuck in having access to certain things if you don't have that password.
Yep, and that's an exercise I did probably 2 weeks after my husband passed. I wrote down all the passwords. I call it my personal document locator, where everything is. And then I got one of the online password aggregators, and they are wonderful. And there's so many very secure aggregators out there. So you put in one major password, and as you were on the web, it updates those passwords every time you have to change.
What is that
That
called?
is
I need
fantastic.
that. What is it
Yeah, so
called?
it's a password aggregator. I There's many out there. So they go from LifeLock, I think TrueKey has one. But yes, it's safe and secure. You have to vet your companies. But as you surf the web, it'll say, "Do you want me to save this password?" And you say yes. And that key is what is actually written on my documents if I pass the key to get into my password protector. Yep.
That makes so much sense. And that also just, I mean, I'm going to do it because I have a trillion passwords. And like, I'm
It makes
always
it
like,
easier.
what is
They're
that password for
visual,
this? Yeah,
little
exactly. Yeah.
tiles.
But
Yeah.
then again, it's like even if you're writing a will, that is the password to get into that. And it doesn't matter how many times you update it. It's one password to get into there. And then that
Yeah.
makes that so much easier.
Yeah, so I put that in the front of my estate documents, which are always in a fire safe box or bag. Everyone out there, you might have your estate documents, and if they're not being held by the attorney and they're in your home, make sure the executor knows where they are. They have
Yes.
a key and they're in a fire safe box because that's very important. And then I also do a map of where all of my assets are. Just the name of the asset, or even where the title to the house is, the title to the cars, and it's almost like a key where everything is. So, and if they're not all held in that area, once a year during the New Year break, I update it all, and that's it, just done for the year. Yep.
Right. Now, what if people don't have or can't afford kind of having a lawyer or somebody in charge of the estate or any of that? There's a lot of people that literally are living just month to month and they don't
True.
have the affordability of all of that. What advice would you give them in kind of just the basics that we're talking about here? And, you know, they don't have somebody to look after it for them. They've got to
Yeah.
look out. Who did they ask? I mean, who did they tell? My will is, or my this is here if anything should happen to me.
Yeah, I can honestly say if you cannot afford to have an attorney help and make you basic documents, one, I will say ask around. Ask around to some of those services that help families in transition, women after divorce, men who are widowers. Just ask. Some of them have attorneys that work pro bono that can
Mm,
help you make some basic documents. So that's first, ask around. Second, online, you can find some basic documents. I don't always recommend it because I do like that legal look.
yeah,
But if that's where you need to go just to get the arrangement of it, then go ahead, see what you can find out there online. Many resources. Third, just open communication.
yeah,
Communicate your wishes with the family, even if it's you writing down your wishes
mm,
and signing it. It's better than nothing.
yeah,
We call it like a personal manifesto, right?
right.
And hope that the person that's going to carry forth on your wishes will do it so in the way that you regarded it. So yeah, that's one of the big things is open communication. Write your own quote unquote manifesto. I even have my manifesto, I call it, inside my estate documents.
Right.
Like these are the legal documents, but this is really my heart of heart, what I wish you guys do.
Mm.
Things like that.
I mean, you
Um,
know, a video. I mean,
oh,
anybody
of
can make
course.
that and save it up in the cloud with a link or whatever, you know,
Yeah,
YouTube in privacy, nobody sees it. And then you somebody's got that link in with the
yeah,
documents. And then, you know, nobody can speak to your loved ones the way you can. So,
yeah.
you know, leaving that behind and this is where that is and that is where this is how I feel. And it's also a sense of closure, isn't it? Hearing that voice from beyond, it's that sense of closure. They were thinking about you. And not only have they given you the ABCs just to make you feel, you know, balanced to know where everything is, but it's that final message, which I think is really important. And today, so easy for everyone to do.
You are right. Technology has helped so much with that. And I know clients who have said that when their spouse has passed, that spouse has left a video diary for the children,
Yes.
a video diary to play on the first day
Yeah.
of school,
Yeah.
right? On their prom, at their wedding, things like that. And what a beautiful tribute.
Yeah.
What a beautiful tribute if you have the power and opportunity to
Yeah.
do that.
And you know,
Um,
that is something wonderful when you know that somebody's in an illness and you've got the time, right?
sure,
But for those that die suddenly, you know,
sure.
there's still also that emotional thing is like, could I have prevented it? could I have done that if it's a car accident or this or that? What if I hadn't asked them to pick up the milk? There's always the little guilt factor that people take on. And that is something that's quite natural, but at the same time needs to be addressed quickly before it really manifests into something big.
No, agreed, agreed. So, as I shared too, like my husband was at the football game with my son that day. And I remember as we parted, the two big kids and I were going to go out to eat, and the little guy was going to go home with his dad. And last minute, he's like, Dad, I'd really like to go out to eat with mom. So he came in the car with me. The guilt for him was all, if I would have been home, he wouldn't
Yes.
have done it. And we
Right.
didn't know that until we
No.
start asking those questions.
Yeah.
One other thing which is just fantastic is sharing the story. Like
Yes.
right here on this podcast, I'm able to share
Mm.
our story. But for the children and I, often sitting and sharing our story even of that day or
Mm.
stories of their father before helps us keep in line and help us keep that legacy moving and have a full understanding of for us that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been remarkable.
Yeah, the don't talk about it, it's past, or shutting it down is not a healthy thing to do for anybody. Talking it out, addressing any of the emotions like guilt or anger. Why did he
Sure,
do it? Didn't he love us enough? I remember
sure.
asking that question, didn't dad love me enough that he would fight for his own life? But, in hindsight, he was a fighter pilot in the war. He'd been through all the war. He was one of the last ones in his squadron to be alive, and he died at 45. And
Well, he was young too.
he was young, yeah. And so he was given a heart thing, and they told him he had 3 months to live, which is the worst thing you can do, instead of saying change your lifestyle. So for him,
Mm.
it was another battle. Come on, bring it on. And he lasted another 4 years. uh,
Wow.
but he would have lasted, because my brother had a heart attack as well many years later, when he was in his 60s. He changed to veganism and he changed his whole lifestyle. So, but in those days, it was just the sentence. And so I was the youngest. So, and it was like, well, didn't you love me enough? Didn't
Sure.
you love me enough to stay or to fight? And you kind of feel unworthy. Then you feel guilty because everybody else has lost them too. So, you know, allow the emotions, and they're not all going to come flooding out of the gate at once. 6 months later, 9 months later, a year later, sudden feeling is going to address it. Whatever you do, don't skirt over it, don't diminish it, and don't belittle it. Address it and let it come out.
Yeah, that's wonderful advice. It is. It is. And that's as we feel the progression moving forward,
Mm.
as my children age and become adults themselves.
Yes.
They look in the mirror, and my oldest sees his father. He looks just like him.
Hmm.
Like that even has to be something that he has to follow that journey with.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
great advice.
It isn't just the moment when somebody goes and then suddenly, what am I going to do with my finances? How am I going to get through this transition? That transition is there for a long time, because you are in self discovery now. Who am I now on my own with these children? Who am
Yeah,
I now? I mean, I know now you are engaged and you have a blended family, and it's like the Brady Bunch meets eight is enough. And so,
it's true. It is. Very lucky. Very lucky.
at the time, you wouldn't have thought about another partner or another life, because it's just, the one that's ripped away from you. But you're also an example of that, love can happen again.
It's
and
true.
and although it's not the same love as you had with your first husband, and nothing ever diminishes that, but the heart knows how to love, and when you open it up, it can love on so many levels.
It's true. And when we talk about sharing stories, we share so many stories about my late husband with my children, with the younger children, with my new fiance. And it's so funny. He's actually said to me before, he's like, you know, I've never met Greg, right? He's like, it'd be really awkward if I did. But
Yes.
because it's become so familiar to have his name and his
Right.
experience, and as well as the embracing of my late husband's family,
Right.
has welcomed everybody in. And now we are extended even beyond.
Right.
So to say at a holiday, oh, where are you going? Oh, to Donna's late husband's family's house.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
come and here come eight children. I'm like,
Yes.
it's kind of easier when the RSVP was just one, right? but
But I
but
mean,
that's
that's
amazing.
the joy. That just means there's more love to share. There's more
Oh,
joy
it's
to
been
share.
amazing.
And whether it's one or whether it's eight, the whole thing is just because somebody, you've lost that line, that thread, just mean you lose everybody there.
Yeah.
They want that. They look at you, they remember how much you love him. And how it was cut short for you and the kids, and they want to continue to be a part of your life. And it's not like, well, he's gone now, so are you. No,
No,
you need your in-laws, and you need that extended friends and family that you had. And that goes even with divorce. You get with the divorce, well, I have to choose him or her. And then suddenly you've lost that whole social
sure.
platform that you had before, which can be really, really difficult. So people, please be kind when people are
It's true.
separating, right?
That's the easiest way to say it. Be mature, be
Yes.
kind, be giving. And I used to really just focus my practice on helping widows and widowers. And when
Mm,
I realized that so many of my clients that have been through divorce
yes.
have that same feeling of loss and grief, except they're active. There's something about being a widow and widower where you know the final point in life.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, I can move from here. That divorce process and recovering from a divorce is ever growing, right? You
Yeah.
still have many of times two parents nurturing and rearing the children moving forward. And so it took an extra level of care and patience and listening to help my divorcees move forward. And it has been so rewarding for
Mm.
me. So absolutely rewarding. Yeah.
And then you've got the divorces that are nasty,
Mm,
and you know, cutting off of the money I'm not paying for the children,
lifestyle.
and all of that. And I have a friend who's going through that right now, and it is quite horrific what he's doing on visitation with his daughters just to get back at the mother. And the mother didn't do anything. He just decided to hate. In fact, it was for his green card, and the moment he got that, he went and married someone else. So, and she can't get rid of him. It's not like us, he's died and moved
Exactly.
on. He's still hanging around. She's trying to do mediation, and he's refusing, so she can't do it until he agrees. He
Yeah.
still has the right to see the daughter who hates going to him, but nobody will, address that, and all of those things that drag out. So
Sure, you can't
it's
move states if you don't want to in many issues here in the
yes,
states. Income all of a sudden stops because it's dependent on did they
yeah.
decide not to pay. Like it is, it's ever changing, ever changing.
And in a lot of ways, the ongoing support for them is in the immediate stage for a long time, isn't it?
It is. I love that you bring that up because it's true. So my process as a widow of that 1 year, like, okay, I got through the year of first. It
Mm.
just seems to extend for our
Yes.
divorcees. And that's to have a helping hand that is a resource that is dependable is really important. And that goes to, like, as you say, for the communities around them. Everyone were football parents or baseball parents,
Yeah.
right? And now that's split into two and you have
Yes.
one parent standing on the other side and this parent standing on there. Don't feel bad. Go visit both. Like
Yeah.
everyone has
Yeah.
feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
understand the kid is feeling like suddenly, parents are either side. Are they going to have a fight?
yeah,
Who do I look at and wave at when I'm running on the field? And so it is understanding, be there for those kids because their transition isn't final there. They're now actually being torn to pieces. So
it's
this is the
true.
time that we need to really, with that empathy, step up. And no,
Yeah.
I don't want the drama. It's not drama, folks. This is called compassion.
Yep. And decency. Oh, that's a
Decency.
lot of it.
Yeah,
Decency is a
yeah.
big part of it.
Maybe don't hear that word enough, do we? And I think it should be kind of right up there in our everyday vocabulary.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
true. Put it on the wall. Just
Yeah,
have some decency.
yeah. You don't have to agree. You
Yeah.
don't have to like, but just be decent about it. Be respectful.
Yeah. Have empathy.
Yeah.
Empathy for the other person.
Yes. Yeah. You're
It's
not in their
beautiful.
shoes. You don't know what they're going through, and so you don't have the rights to pass the judgment. And let's leave the judging up to judges. And as a community, stop judging people. You've heard the fight or you've heard a rumor, and immediately, oh, oh, and it's like all of a sudden the support stops for someone because of somebody's malicious rumor. And then,
Yeah.
this person is stuck again, kind of being isolated, which is cruel. It's
Yeah.
cruel, folks. We don't do that to one another.
Yeah.
So,
So sad. It
yeah.
is.
Being there for one another as a community on an everyday level is so, so important because again, with all this isolation we've had in this last year, it's certainly shown
Sure.
us how much we need other people, how we're dying for that hug, and just that, getting together, is absolutely wonderful. And as we're coming out and getting back to doing that, we realize how much we are really dependent on each other as human beings. We need that camaraderie. And there's so many people that have gone through either you know, loss by death or loss by divorce or loss by something, you know, losing family members and not having the closure because of
Sure.
COVID, not being able to be there, maybe even not having a funeral. Um,
Yeah,
and so that delayed reaction is going to be there, you know, because they haven't had that permission yet. So are you finding right now in your practice that there's a lot more of that right now?
definitely. We call it the year of first, right? I think I mentioned it earlier in here. It's like it's your first holiday, your first
Yeah,
spring, the first time you've circled around to when you lost the spouse
right.
and you smell a bonfire, something like that. And for all of us that have been at home during COVID by ourselves, that year of first was paused. So
Yes.
it's almost like the grieving process just paused because you're not getting the hugs, you're
Mm,
not having all that support of the community. You're not just bumping into someone who could carry your bags from a grocery
right.
store, right? We are actually just in our own home. And I have seen so much of that moving forward, as well as the fact of, as you mentioned, people that passed along the way.
Mm,
And there was no closure, there
yeah,
was no any funeral or the outpouring of support.
right.
So many people now have brought back like the celebrations, right?
Mhm.
So we're going to do a celebration on the anniversary of pick their birthday, right? Or their favorite holiday or just a random day. Now that everyone's getting vaccinated and coming back out, that's been really helpful. And I always encourage people in the community to like, okay, yeah, we did the meal train back then, right? But they've been locked up in their home for 15 months.
Yeah,
What do we do now?
right.
Invite them down to the beach. Like you
Yes.
mentioned, take the children so they can go to the beach for the
Yes.
day. Things like that provide the opportunity because for many of us, it's been a year and a half, especially for my widows and widowers who lost
Mhm.
someone right before the COVID
Right.
shutdown. It
Yeah.
was like breaks just on hold. And they are also in those houses full of memories.
Mm.
It's been hard for them.
Plaguing them in many ways, right? Because you can't get the distance
It's
from it,
true.
right? You
Yeah,
know,
you can't keep. I'm one of those people that keeps active and just keeps moving on. Doesn't
yeah,
I don't think it's going to catch up to me if I
you're
keep
right.
busy.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not true, ladies and
right.
gentlemen. Do not take my advice on that one. It will catch up.
Yes.
Just kind of face it.
Yes.
But at least for me, that it stretched. It stretched the amount of impact I would allow because I could digest it a little
Yeah.
bit better. So to be home and to have it all there was a lot for many widows and widowers
Right.
recently, as well as many families that might have been trying to keep their marriage together and now they're him for 15 months,
Right.
and that divorce rate has sadly increased. But at
Yes.
the same time, I look at it as opportunities for two people. I have seen those divorces go much more maturely than I
Yeah.
have seen many others
Yeah.
because they realize it's actually for quality of life.
Right. Right. And you know, it really is up to us as human beings to decide how we're going to behave. And you know, we can be in pain, we can be in anguish, we can be in all emotional turmoil, but when it comes down to it, is what are we going to do about it? And you know, we I always say, you know, our emotions are here for a reason. They're here to indicate how we feel, but don't become emotional about your emotions because that's when you're stuck and then you can't see a way out. Is I'm mad? Okay, what am I mad at? All right, how am I going to get rid of this anger? I'm sad. What am I sad about? Let's deal with that. I'm feeling the pain of loss. Okay, go and hug something. Have a goddamn good cry. Spend the emotion. But
Yeah,
if you deny it or get stuck in it, now you're in that twirl and you can't get out of it altogether.
yeah, no, definitely. And I've myself as well as many of my close widow friends because we do all tend to hang out once we
Yes.
have this life experience. It's you could be 6 years post lost and
Yeah.
just have a good cry if you need to.
Yes.
You'll
Yeah.
feel better afterwards, and no one is going to judge you, right?
No.
No, and
It's
teach
not,
your
well, aren't you,
kids that
shouldn't you
you
have got over
can.
that by now? No.
Yeah,
No,
teach
there's a
your kids it's okay.
yes.
It's all right.
Yes.
So
Most
big,
certainly.
big part,
Yeah.
big part of it.
Yeah, exactly. And there is no time frame for grief. People are going to
No,
go through grief on their own time. Now your support is there for that first year. But then, you know, other people can step up after that. And you can even let the community know, you know, still having a bit of difficulty in this area.
Sure.
Like, pay attention to that. If you see them kind of going down that rabbit hole, grab them and pull them out.
Yeah, we used to have this group called Moving On, which would be
Yeah.
probably about 3, 4 years afterwards. I remember people in the Moving On group. I was like, they're not ready. They
Right.
don't want to, and it's okay. Like,
Yes.
take it at your speed
Yes.
and excel in life and love life where you can, and be kind to yourself where you just need some more time, right?
Yeah.
Or a little bit more support. So there's no race to this.
Right. Do you only deal with the loss, whether it's, widower, widower, or divorcee? Do you deal with people who have loss of children or anything, or other
I
family
actually,
members?
yeah, I do a lot of, I call it families in transition. So I
Mm.
actually do a lot of career change also, simply
Mm-hmm.
because we move so often. I felt like I personally had to recreate my life every time we moved, right?
Yes.
Like, so here we're in New Jersey. Next thing we know, we're in Italy. Now we're down in Delaware, right? Texas. I avoided that one. But so any Texans listening, I'm sure it's wonderful. Just too far from my East Coast Philadelphia
All
upbringing.
right.
But so yeah, so that's a big part of what we do. And honestly, my practice has morphed itself into guidance for so many young
Yeah.
families. And I love that part of where I did not think my practice was going to go,
Right.
of having young new parents in their early 30s sitting down and saying, okay, should something happen
Mm.
to my husband or my wife, I want to protect my family. How are we going to do it? As well as sharing their goals and how to get there moving forward. And it's been so fulfilling and so beautiful. Also having their parents as part of that process, right?
Mm.
Like, the parents come in, they want to sit down and have that conversation with their adult children. It's really hard to have that conversation on your own sometimes. But if you
Yes.
have an advisor out there to kind of have the language, move the conversation, it's kind of safer. It's a little less emotional, and it's more appreciation for, I want you to be in control moving forward. So
Mhm.
definitely.
We have insurance on things, and it's to ensure that should something happen, you're covered. But we don't think about kind of wills or the financial planning or this or that. Nobody wants to go into thinking, well, in case we divorce or in case we demise. We don't want to think that, oh, Bill, you're thinking negatively. No, I am thinking practically.
Sure.
And by putting those things in order, it gives me more peace of mind to live my day and enjoy every moment of it. Because should anything happen, I know the family's okay.
Yeah, it's freeing. It's
Yeah.
absolutely freeing. I always say it's a lot of work out front, but it's
Mm.
absolutely freeing in the back end. Like, anytime, even for example, if you start a new diet, right, or a new exercise
Yes.
program,
Yes.
the first 2 weeks are really, really hard. But then
Yeah.
afterwards, you're so proud of that life change, as you talked about. So moving to a vegan lifestyle and extending and clearing their
Yeah.
life, this will give you so much relaxation. Take that blood pressure down a little bit,
Yes.
and it takes the worry out of things. It,
Yeah.
it does take the worry out, and it's wonderful to be able to share with your family and generations to come. Yep.
Yeah. I said on a show the other day, because I'm showing my age, is Stitch in Time, and he's saying the millennial generation won't know what you're talking about, because it's Stitch in Time saves nine. So it's, one stitch instead of nine. And he said he uses the analogy, uh, put oil in the car now or pay for a new engine later. Right. So,
It's true.
so we want to, as much as we can, be prepared. And if anything that COVID has taught us, when it's taught us many things, is one of those things is you don't know who it's going to happen to, who, when, or how. And that, that security, that just laying things there on both sides, instead of all of a sudden the spouse going, I have no idea what the passwords are or what this is or what that is. Now both of them are, no, oh yeah, no, we went through that. I've got it covered. And
Yeah.
that huge thing off the shoulders there, right? Because that's covered. I know
Yeah.
I need to do A, B, and C, but I'm not just spinning around going, what do I do next?
Agreed, agreed. And that's the blessing. And that's really where I gear most of the advice or the education. I'm very education based in my practice. That's where I want to reach out, and I want to just say that message. So if I stand to a group of moms on a Sunday morning, right, who are all having some coffee together and they've allowed me to come and join in on their conversation, and if I can tell them just that little takeaway, like we
Yeah.
shared, the personal document locator and having your password saved, if
Yes.
that's what they walk away with, then fantastic. My day is full.
Yeah.
I've done what I've been meant to do, because it could have just eased the whole process for their spouse along the way.
It's very often just simply not something that people think about,
Yeah.
right?
And
It's just not, wouldn't have crossed my mind.
Yeah.
right? Until it's there. So, there's little nuggets that you drop off. It's like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Oh, I guess I better do something about it, right? So,
Yeah. It's that one step forward that changes life.
yeah. So,
Exactly.
what kind of things are you going to bring on your show? Because I'm delighted to have you here with us on Self Discovery Media. Widow and Wisdom, which is a wonderful title, and it's the wisdom that you've got from being a widow, but also obviously from your life skill and your business skill, and very much what you're doing now. But what kind of people are we going to expect you to bring on, and what kind of subjects are you going to be talking about?
Oh, I am very excited about this because it's going to be much less finance. I love talking about finance, but more about the resources out there for you. Should you lose a spouse, a
Yeah.
widower, widower? Should you be through that divorce? Should you be changing careers and reinventing yourself? What considerations do you have to have? So we're going to have guest speakers like, somebody who's going to help you do a personal relationship inventory,
Mm,
like so that relationship that was so dear to you, and either you've lost somebody or maybe it did end in divorce, the
mm,
relationship changed, right? We call it the relationship autopsy. So what did we
mm.
learn from that, and so
Yeah.
what can we bring to the table?
Love
When
that
are
title.
we?
That title's got to be on the show.
Good one, right?
Yeah.
Can't give it all away. um, yeah, and then even the things of how to help your children grieve, right?
Mm,
What steps worked for me, and what steps do, when we surround ourselves with this community of men and women who've all experienced this loss and children of all different ages, how to be appropriate with our vocabulary, right? How
mm.
to use your community resources well, right? How to, even something as how to organize yourself better, right? Like
Yes.
these are the topics we need.
Yeah.
And so it's more about all of those, so moving through the widows and the widowers, and then going through resources for our D4Cs, and then that moving on, that piece
And
to
then
it moving forward.
the new couples,
Yeah,
the stitch in time, it's
yeah. We are a blended family, and I am learning
mm,
new things every day in regard to, yes, in regard to, I had it all, right? Like
yeah.
I actually had it all squared away and I was done, I was fine. And then, oops, now I'm opening my life right up again. So
Right.
how to be vulnerable, right? How to start that conversation again, too, of protecting your children and your finances and
Yes.
their hearts while bringing in a second family and wanting to love them in the same way. So,
Yeah, and that everybody has their own personality, and it doesn't mean everybody's going to get on. And it's not like, well, mom and dad are happy, you guys are going to all be happy together. No, you've got to allow them to form their own relationships, and go into it and saying, look, give it time. We're there
yeah.
for you, but be open-hearted and open-minded, which is
Yeah.
really important. So,
Yeah, and that's it. So having someone come in, talk about prenups, getting that
yeah,
thing squared away, as well as some relationship coaches of how to blend the families, how
yes,
to respect the rights of every child in that
yeah,
house, because our decision to blend our family was not theirs.
no,
So,
no,
no, not theirs. But
no, yeah, no. There's those horrible shows of people, vying to marry this one guy, and whoever he picked at the end, they would marry, and then they, you haven't met the family. You have no,
yeah,
suddenly you're married. Oh, I met him on TV. And here he is. Here's your stepdad, and it's like, oh, can't think of anything more horrific or
yeah,
unkind to your children, right? Um, but yeah, I didn't have that kind of preparation in my divorce, and and it was kind of 2 years before even the moving out, and it was just, at the end of it, it was just, let's just, I knew that I was going to be walking away with virtually nothing. Let's just close it off and move on.
yeah,
And sometimes you just have to do that. But I have, to this day, have no idea what he earned, or anything, because that was always kept secret. And yes, you, each and every one of you, are entitled to your own money. It's your money. But then there's the us money, and the us money you need to know about. You need to know what's happening with it, not just the money. As you said, you found out, stocks and bonds and this and that type of thing, and like you didn't know that was there. And we need to put things on the table and not suddenly have a shock.
yeah. It's that
Um,
transparency of it.
yeah,
Again, to your point, we all deserve our own privacy,
yeah,
right? And we all deserve our own sense of control. But it's just the transparency of knowing what's there. How can we help one another should this pass?
yeah,
So, yeah,
yes,
no, I agree with you. I agree with you. We always say now too, it's mine, yours, and ours. So
yes, yes,
it's, you're completely fine that you can have a mine and a yours, but
yes.
is out, can ours take care of this family unit?
Right. And I think that is one of the healthiest ways, because you're entitled to have your own money. You're entitled to have, I can spend it on what I want to spend it on. This is my limit, then my responsibility, but the underbelly of the us. And that's the same thing with self-love. I'm, taking some love for me, so I have more love to bring to the us,
It's
right?
so funny. My daughter, as we're this blended family, has learned how to work it very well.
Mm,
She's 19 and she went on a trip. And of course, I was like, oh, here, have some cash. Like, I want to make sure you have cash on you. They live on just their cards now, but I want
yes.
you to have some cash in an emergency. Well, apparently, my fiance also handed her money. And then we're talking later, and she was like, oh, yeah, my guest, I was a guest at someone's house. They didn't let me pay for a thing. So now my summer savings is up because you both paid me. We were like, comes out of the joint account. It came out of us money. Like, she just tapped the joint account twice.
Smart cookie.
Yeah, see, I'm a financial planner, but I don't always have that in line. So all the
That-
kids listening, that's the advantage of a joint family.
right. Yes. Yes. What is it? The Sackaroo, right?
Yeah,
Um, Life moves on. Whatever happens to us, whether it's loss of, of spouse or divorce or loss of job, transitioning from what you had to something unknown, especially if you've gone through something that's traumatic in between that you're dealing with, is really, really hard. And the more people that are there to help navigate your way. And the thing is, everything about you is practical. You're going to give them the practical steps. As I say, you're putting the wisdom in their backpack. You're showing them the path they can take so they can take those steps confidently,
yeah,
right? And so, they've got to walk it, but you're
it's true.
preparing them for that walk. And
Yep,
you're
and
doing it
holding
with
their hand
compassion.
along the way.
Yeah,
That's it. It's
yeah,
holding a hand along the way. Now,
exactly.
post COVID, we can.
Yes,
But
literally, yes.
I did it virtually before, and we
Right.
always said, we did a lot of fundraising after my husband passed, and the slogan of our little team was "Love the past, love the future," and
Mm,
that's the truth.
yes,
Love, respect, and learn from whether your past be divorce or widow or widowhood,
yes,
but love the future opportunities in front of you.
yes, because there's plenty.
Tons.
And you're not dishonoring the person that you've lost if you love again. That doesn't mean you didn't love the other person, or even in a divorce, that you didn't love them at one time. It's just that it didn't work out.
Sure.
You're two different people now, and
Two good people who just couldn't be together.
exactly, and
That's it.
and don't make it bad people by going down the nasty road. All right, have some of that decorum and
Decency.
decency, respect for one another, and also some self love. Because if you've got some self love, you can't knowingly go and hurt someone else for your own gain.
Agreed.
So,
Agreed. You've got lots of wisdom, Sarah. Lots of it.
well, you're on the right channel here with all your shows. And what I love about it is the fact that you are going to be sharing those practical tips, but from a compassionate point of view, from a nurturing point of view, but also it liberating and uplifting. Because if we're liberated, because a lot of people say, yes, I know I need to do this. I know I need to do this, but I don't know how.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And I always say some of it too is the little kid stamps their feet like, I just don't want to. Like, I know I
Yeah.
have to, but I just don't want to.
Yeah.
So to hear someone else's journey of how they didn't want to either,
Yeah.
but it got there, it's
Yeah.
okay. It's
Yes.
okay. And learn from it and feel as if you're part of the community as you're listening.
The best teachers are those that have gone through it. They understand that you can relate to them. They have the empathy. They know the ups and downs. But it's the fact that they found the strength and the courage and the abilities to go through it. And now have stepped into that. I always say that is your divine purpose. That is your meaningful calling. We're meant to go through certain things so that we end up doing what we're really here to do. And what you're really here to do is to put people on that right track of peace of mind, or that equilibrium after a shock, whether it's divorce, widowhood, or whatever. That we all need to move forward. Life isn't stagnant, but knowing how with the right steps, that cheerleading that you give them, that compassion and that support, and that you've got this. And it's not just you've got it, la, 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 you've got it. Here are the skills and the tools, and this is how to apply them, right? The
Yep.
practical stuff. So it's more than just the cheerleader, you're the teacher as well, and the wise tutor along the way, which is wonderful. So we're delighted to have you join us. And we don't have a date yet as to when your new shows are going to start, but we're hoping in August, right?
We are. We're going to try our best.
Great. And we will let you know, folks, when it's coming. And you're going to want to tune in. There isn't anybody that hasn't experienced some form of loss in some way. And it's what do I do now?
How do
That's
we
the
help the people we love?
exactly, which is
Yep.
so, so important. But in the meantime, how do people find you and how can you help them? And is it only in your area or can they be from anywhere?
Oh, you can be from anywhere for this. You feel free to follow me on social media. It's Sefton Financial. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. We're also on Twitter and just got out on Twitter. So just go ahead and Google Sefton Financial. Lots of those tips are out there already as a resource.
Right. So it's Stefton is SPHTON. Financial.com is your site. Your LinkedIn is Donna Kendrick. Instagram, Stepton Financial, Facebook, Stepton Financial, and then you have got your email, Donna at steptonfinancial.com. And so people can just reach out, have a look at what you're offering. As I said, you're doing this from a place of love, of compassion, of wanting to see people embrace their futures, embrace their lives, carry that love forward with them, but open up their hearts and their eyes to the possibilities of what else is out there with confidence and with the right knowledge and wisdom. And
Sarah,
knowledge and wisdom is different, isn't it?
two very different things.
Two totally different things. You can
It's
have
how you
knowledge.
apply that to your
Right.
life.
Yeah. The wisdom is how you apply the knowledge, folks. So just, you can have a whole load of knowledge, then you have no idea what to do with it. You need the wisdom to know what to do with it. And Donna is here there for you to do that. Can't wait for you to join us and all the shows that you're going to bring. I know it's going to be extremely exciting, but at the same time, extremely nourishing and fruitful. So thank you so much, Donna, for
Oh,
sharing.
thank you.
And when is the big day, by the way?
Oh, it is. We are now on the 1 year count. It's the 21st of June we're talking now, and it's going to be the 20th of June in 2022.
Right.
So 364 days.
Big, huge wedding. I mean, I imagine the kids want to be bridesmaids and this and that, a huge, big thing.
It's under the wraps. As long as we have 6 kids and us all there successfully, we're happy. Everything else is bonus.
Right, exactly. And, hopefully no closures anywhere, everything completely open and ready to go. And, what a wonderful thing to blend families. I mean, here, you've shown the example of loss, you've shown the example of survival, you've shown the example of thrival, and you've shown the example of how to love again, so yeah.
And I'm so happy to share the journey along the way because I am learning too. So
yes,
yeah.
yes. And it's just because you know what you know now doesn't mean you won't know something else tomorrow. Right.
Yeah, that's the wisdom part.
That's right. The forever learning, which we're going to do to the day we die. And at the moment we stop learning, we stop living. So it's really important that we carry on learning. Thank you, Donna, my darling. Look forward to all the shows that you're going to bring forward to us, folks. Widows and wisdom coming to you in August sometime. We will let you know when you're going to want to listen to these shows. Also, reach out to her, steptonfinancial.com, because of all the services that she has right now. You may just be at that point in life where you're going through this transition and you simply don't know how. Feel like your head is spinning and you need somebody just to hold the ears and go, I've got you. Right? Donna's got
Wonderful. I actually do that, so that was well done, Sarah.
I can see you doing it.
I hold cheeks. I hold cheeks. So I got you, bub. Don't worry. You're not alone.
That's what we want to hear. Perfect note to finish off. She's got you. We need to be got. And it's okay, folks. We can move forward. There's always a good day ahead of us. So until next time, folks. Bye, Donna.
Thank you, Sarah. Bye-bye.
We hope that you enjoyed the show. You will hear many, many shows here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. We have new shows for you out every week. Just find them on our podcast or What's New. If you feel that you have something to share that makes a difference in the lives of others, or you too feel that you could be a host, please contact me at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com and we will be glad to speak with you. Have a wonderful day.